I come to you tonight as a concerned parent. We all know there are budget issues. We've had them for some time. But now we're at a tipping point for other more serious issues, such as parent involvement, participation, and advocacy. I think without those elements involved in our schools, the budget issues become magnified exponentially, especially because of the role that parents and other groups play in supplementing resources that don't exist in the schools. And an example I've seen in King Street, for example, over the years they've had tens of thousands of dollars in gifts to school to supplement those areas where the budget has been lacking, and that is paid for field trips, supplies, and part of it, the economy is bad and people really don't have the money to give as much as they used to, and that's part of the city's problem as well. But another thing that we're seeing is that parents are becoming more disconnected from the school, not just in terms of fundraising. It's become harder and harder to recruit parents to volunteer into the schools, and because of that, there are events that are canceled, that don't happen, events that don't necessarily involve fundraising. Think of reading nights and skate nights and other things that wouldn't happen. Take a reading night, for an example, that really doesn't have much of a cost, but it involves volunteerism, and when those things don't happen, the children will miss out on some of those things. And again, PTOs are not the be-all, end-all of parent involvement, but I think the board has a very big role to play in terms of being a public voice and a public advocate for education. There are board policies that deal with parent involvement, and I encourage that to be strongly advocated for in the future. Again, that doesn't require a dime, but it requires effort and public presence. The larger issue as it relates to this is a lack of advocacy for our school system in the city today. And we've seen this over the past several years, but now I think we're at a point where a lot of people, again, are being disconnected from the system, and that makes it impossible to even advocate for the budget that's been presented, that's been approved by the board, much less other prospects such as a referendum on expansion, or even the technology plan that we're going to discuss later this evening. Without a strong base of public advocacy, which could be spearheaded by the board, but really needs a public input, none of these projects will become even possible. We can sit here and talk about expansion of schools. Our enrollment is growing. But without the voters to approve a referendum, none of this is going to happen, much less the operating budget that's going to be required in future years to pay for all of this. It's hard today, but even when the economy improves, without building a base of public advocacy in the schools, the tipping point that we're at that Dr. Sal mentioned a few weeks ago in terms of the budget will be magnified exponentially, because right now as it exists, or as it stands, there really is very little, if any, public support of our school system today.